Honestly, I'm done talking about Epstein for the time being. I'm going to trust my friends in the administration. I'm going to trust my friends in the government.
Wow, I'm going to trust my friends in the government. Is Charlie Kirk a liberal now? What's up, my beautiful freedom-loving friend? This is where we call out lies, hypocrisy, corruption, and help spread the light of truth and freedom because truth conquers. Now, we're day seems like 495 of there's no Epstein files, a little fallout. Something interesting is happening. There's some very well-known conservative commentators saying, I'm not going to talk about the Epstein files. Yes, maybe even I've talked about them for years. Of course, there's a list. But all of a sudden, they're changing their tune. They're saying, I'm not going to talk about them anymore. Let's just trust the government. We'll take a look at a couple of them. We'll also take a look at a couple very well-known conservative commentators that are basically saying, over my dead body, will I just move on from there's no Epstein client list? We'll see what they have to say. I'm curious what you have to say about all this in the comments. And we'll also get to how I think there is something much bigger involved here than just the Epstein list. Starting out with Charlie Kirk shocking the world when he says, I'm just going to trust my friends in the government.
Honestly, I'm done talking about Epstein for the time being. I'm going to trust my friends in the administration. I'm going to trust my friends in the government to do what needs to be done, solve it, balls in their hands. I've said plenty this last weekend. So if you guys want to see my commentary on it, that's fine.
Now, if you watched mainstream news, I don't know, let's just say from about 2020 to 2024, late 2024, you basically hear the regurgitated saying over and over, it's at least implied, trust the government. Trust the government. And you know the old saying, the biggest deception, you get a knock on your door, and it's the government saying, we're here to help. So this shocked me when I heard Charlie Kirk say this. I'm just going to trust the government because that has been the anthem of not even the Liberal Party, but the leftist party over the past, whole Biden administration. Remember the whole COVID era? Like, we want you to do this. The government says it's good. Trust the government. Stay in your homes. You have to, it's for your protection. Trust the government. We are censoring speech. Yes, but it's for your protection. Trust the government. They have to censor speech to protect our freedom of speech. That doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't have to if you just trust the government. That has been libtard speak 101 for the past 4 years. And here Charlie Kirk, a very well-known conservative commentator who I respect, I still respect. I don't share this opinion, but here he is singing the same anthem that libtards have been singing for the past handful of years. And he's not the only one. Let's take a look at Dinesh D'Souza. That name might ring a bell if it doesn't. He was the filmmaker of 2000 Mules, which was helping expose some irregularities in the 2020 election. Now, he and Charlie Kirk have something in common I'll share with you after this clip.
I'm going to talk about the Epstein files, and I'm going to make the case that even though there are unanswered questions about Epstein, it is in fact time to move on. Part of being on a political team is maintaining a certain amount of maturity, recognizing you can't win them all, recognizing there are some things that are important to you that are less important to the guy that you've put in charge who is trying to focus on things right in front of him. And so having a sense of perspective, having a sense of balance, having a sense of maturity, I think is more important even than getting to the bottom of what really happened with Jeffrey Epstein.
Wow, that's pretty big. Concluding with, I think having a sense of maturity, presumably by not talking about the Epstein case anymore, is more important than getting to the bottom of it. In other words, having a sense of maturity, just moving on, is more important than getting to the truth. Now, these guys were a little bit lit up in the comments section. We'll see that in a second, but first, here's what Charlie Kirk and Dinesh D'Souza both have in common. They've both got an inside line to President Trump. Charlie Kirk had said over the weekend he had a call with President Trump, and after that, Charlie Kirk flipped his script. He went with Trump's talking point. You've seen Trump say to the media, you're still talking about Epstein? Let's move on. Let's not talk about this anymore. It's old. So now Charlie Kirk is singing, presumably, not, we can definitely know exactly what Trump's saying, but presumably he's changed his tune because he talked to President Trump and Dinesh D'Souza. I'm pretty confident he's got an inside line with President Trump. I would bet he had a conversation with either Trump or some of Trump's closest people. And through that influence, they were compelled to go with the Trump administration narrative of let's just move on. Let's stop talking about Epstein. And by the way, maybe tell your audience the same thing. Let's get that influence out there. Now, I can both respect that and disrespect that at the same time. I think a person of principle, when they're using their own discernment, you got to go with what seems right, feels right to you. And what feels right to me is there is truth that is being suppressed here in this case. And we, the people, deserve to know the truth. This is about minors who were predatorized on. We deserve to know the truth. And there's potential elites being protected by the suppression of the truth. We, the people, won't back down on this. And at the same time, I could understand, hey, if I talk to President Trump personally, now that's a very influential guy. That might get me to do one of two things. It might get me to abandon my principles. I hope it wouldn't, but it's possible. Or it might convince me Trump is earnestly doing the right thing here. That's something I'm not convinced on the outside looking in through media and all the sources we can get. But if I had a personal phone call with him, I guarantee I'd have a better chance of being convinced to go with Trump's perspective on this than what's mostly the perspective of we the people of, hey, you're hiding something and we're pissed. You're gaslighting us. I hate to say it, the Trump administration is gaslighting us on the Epstein files because so many people in the Trump administration, including President Trump himself, Donald Trump Jr., Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Pam Bondi, have all said things, either the list is on my desk or there's definitely a list and the FBI has it. And the fact that they're not addressing that they previously said that is gaslighting. Maybe there is no list. I kind of doubt it. But even if there isn't, there's still gaslighting at play because they're not addressing the opposite thing that they previously said relative to the thing they're now saying. So in a second, we'll see a couple quick clips of prominent conservative commentators who are saying the exact opposite of what Charlie Kirk and Dinesh D'Souza have said. They're saying this is kind of the hill we're willing to die on. Before we do that, let's see what we, the people, had to say in the comments section on these two clips. Just urging you to move on. I'm not going to talk about it. Maybe you shouldn't either. On the Charlie Kirk video, we see conservatives are the new punk. Trust the government. Good Lord. Yeah, I've ridiculed him for that. I've got a newscaster video coming out ridiculing him. That's the most libtard thing you could say, Charlie Kirk. If it came out of my mouth, it'd be just as libtard. Dear Lord. And then this meme. Read that for yourself. This post, I think this is a great summary. Things. Don't trust the government. This is kind of from the typical freedom-loving conservative perspective. Climate. Don't trust the government. Healthcare. Don't trust the government. Taxes. Don't trust the government. Wars. Don't trust the government. Epstein. Trust the government. Yeah, that is, I think that statement of Charlie Kirk, where he made that from, it was just influence of Trump's call or it's like his genuine perspective. It's definitely out of alignment with probably a lot of other things Charlie Kirk says. Charlie Kirk also has a lot of criticism over minor transition surgeries, as do I. And for a long time, the government was saying, no, this is a really good thing. He didn't trust the government on that. Trust the government on this? Now, granted, there's a big difference between the Biden administration government and the Trump administration government, yet I would dare say a true patriot does not put full trust in the government, no matter who they are. You can have someone like President Trump, who I highly respect. I'm so grateful he's our president. But guess what? It's not one person in the government. There are more people in the government than you and I could possibly ever list. Do you just trust the government of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people? I don't know. I'm guessing not 100% of them are trustworthy. We'll get back to the video in just a second, but first here's a reality that you might not like. We're all told to save money. Sounds smart, right? But when our money is just sitting in a bank, it's losing value because of inflation. You know that $10,000 today is not worth $10,000 in 1990. That's why you've probably heard so many financial experts recommend buying gold and silver. But if you're like me, you sit there and say, I like that idea, but how do I do that? Well, today I want to tell you about Wolfpack Gold, a family-owned, veteran-owned, freedom-minded company. It makes it very easy to invest in precious metals like gold and silver so you don't get left behind. And specifically, I want to tell you about the Wolfpack Precious Metals subscription. It's an automatic monthly physical delivery of metals right to your door. It's a set it and forget it kind of stacking. And this is very helpful for someone like me because I want to continually invest, but I don't want to have to think about it every month. They have pricing options for all budgets from $50 to $5,000 and free shipping on $750 and up, and you get to choose the metals that you want to purchase. I also like that Wolfpack Gold allows you to use Bitcoin on one-time purchases, and they don't charge a Bitcoin fee. They also have Beans the Brave as the head of customer service to ensure that everyone is a happy customer, and there's many more reasons why they have over 1,000 five-star reviews. To start stacking your precious metals, go to jpsears.gold and use promo code JPReacts to get a free silver dime and silver quarter with your first purchase. That's jpsears.gold. Now back to the video. And Dinesh D'Souza gets lit up in the comments as well. Does Dinesh have a family? Children? How can these people talk about protecting children and being the party of family values? Yeah, when they're saying like this predatory ring of Epstein's, let's just move on. I agree. I don't think there's a parent in this world. Well, there is apparently him, but I don't think a good parent would say, let's move on from this. It's fine. There is FU Dinesh D'Souza. I'm guessing this person disagrees. Military arms. Wow, the administration is pulling out these stops to get their influencers in line. I wonder what they threatened him with. Yeah, I saw an article. It's a report. Hearsay. I can't confirm it, that President Trump had calls with prominent influencers. Charlie Kirk said he had a call with President Trump. And if that's true, what the speculation is the call President Trump had with various prominent influencers was to get them on board with going with his Epstein talking points. And this person seems to be calling that out. Now, let's hear from some prominent conservatives who say, no, we are not moving on from this. And that's not going to change. Starting with the no BS, Matt Walsh.
Now, of course, we have no idea what information, if any, this sociopath, this evil woman will ultimately reveal. But
speaking of Ghislaine Maxwell and her call, let me testify in front of Congress. Congress quickly voted no on that, but that's what he's referencing.
the fact remains that, especially after the humiliating display by Bondi and the DOJ we've all just witnessed, it's probably worth listening to Maxwell's testimony. If a client list exists at this point, she's the most likely person to tell us. Now, yes, it's an indictment of Pam Bondi and the DOJ that we see any reason to listen to a ghoul like this, but that's where we are. Millions of Americans are not satisfied with what we've been told. And we shouldn't be, because it's been contradictory and insulting to our intelligence every step of the way.
Amen to that. That one line sums it up. It's been contradictory and insulting to our intelligence.
So now we're looking elsewhere. This is what happens when people are deceived and strung along for years, only to be told that they're not entitled to any kind of transparency whatsoever. People are not just going to move on with their lives, no matter how badly you want them to. There's a reason for that. And I want to make this very clear to those on the right, including the president himself, who are telling us to just drop the subject and move on. We can't drop it. We can't move on, because what we want is justice. We have a deep desire for justice, and we can see how the corrupt and the powerful are never held accountable. We can look at our cities and see violent criminals running rampant in the streets, also not held accountable. We want these evildoers to be punished. We want the innocent to be defended. We want justice. It's one of the most basic and most honorable of all human desires. We want to see that justice is done. We want to know Who else was in those awful videos that Pam Bondi told us about?
Tens of thousands of videos, Pam Bondi said. Yeah, well, who was in them? That is just such an obvious question. And the gaslighting of her never addressing that question. Like you're saying, there's videos. Are they all selfie videos? I don't think they are. Who else is in them?
And we want those people to be dragged in front of us, weeping and begging for mercy. We want them exposed and humiliated and shamed and punished in the harshest and most painful way, because that's justice. And we're not going to drop the subject until we get it. So unseal everything, including the search warrants and the financial disclosures. Tell us what exactly was in those truckloads of documents that you recovered in New York. Show us the phase 2 Epstein files that you told us about just a few months ago. Don't give us any more excuses from bureaucrats on Fox News. Don't give us any more stonewalling and doublespeak.
Now, I would dare say Matt Walsh speaks for the majority of freedom lovers. And I think Charlie Kirk, Dinesh D'Souza speak for a very small minority when they're saying, let's move on. Now, Candace Owens says this Epstein cover-up with the Trump administration is terminal cancer to the MAGA movement. Before we get to the short clip of what she has to say on that, here's what's at play that's bigger than the Epstein case. Yeah, there's some critics of Trump supporters saying, like, oh, you're not being loyal to President Trump. You're not being loyal to the Republican Party. And I would say that's absolutely right. And that's preferable. Here's the thing that I've observed with freedom lovers like you and I. What we care about most is freedom, and by extension of that, truth. We are loyal to freedom and truth. We've gone through a really hard previous handful of years, and that's just carved us out of granite to be these just stones who stand for freedom and truth. We don't stand for loyalty to a party. And by the way, I think President Trump did an excellent job of helping forge these strong values in people like you and I. He did such a great job of making us, helping us become loyal to freedom and truth, that we are now way more loyal to freedom and truth than we are to him, than we are to the Republican Party. I think many of us, including myself, would have been pretty apolitical until we realized, oh, the political party home for freedom, what we care most about, that's become the conservative party. I started seeing that in 2020. Like, all right, I like conservatism much better than communism. But I never pledged loyalty to the party, and I never will. What I will pledge loyalty to is freedom and truth. So the MAGA base, yes, we're fans of President Trump. Yet the MAGA movement has created something far more powerful than loyalty to, I think, for all intents and purposes, a really great leader, President Trump. It's helped forge this loyalty, potentially country-saving loyalty to freedom and truth. And that's what's bigger than this Epstein case. That's why many of us won't be taking the advice of Charlie Kirk and Dinesh D'Souza. Let's be mature, just move on. Yeah, we're actually something more than mature. We're patriots. And as Mark Twain once said, a patriot isn't someone who's loyal to their government. It's someone who's loyal to their country. And with the values of America, being loyal to our country means we are loyal to freedom and truth. Now, let's hear what Candace Owens has to say, who believes this Epstein cover-up, if it doesn't change, it's terminal cancer to the MAGA movement.
Reconcile this Donald Trump with the Trump that we're seeing right now, the Trump that is gaslighting the public right now, the Trump that I voted for across multiple elections. The Epstein scandal is definitely terminal cancer to Trump's MAGA movement. There's no question about that. I actually said to my husband this week, and we were talking about it, that in order for Trump to get out of this is how bad it is, in order for him to actually make the MAGA base forget this, like potentially move on from Jeffrey Epstein, he would essentially have to come right out and repeal income tax in the United States. And then we would be extremely happy. Everyone would be very happy. And then we'd go, actually, thanks, Trump, but we still remember the Epstein scandal and we want the list. That's how bad it is. There's just no making anybody forget about this Epstein scandal.
Yeah, I would agree. Even if Trump repeals income tax, which I would personally like. Yeah, that won't, I'll appreciate that, but that won't make me forget about this little list that we were told exists. And then the same people are telling us it doesn't. Move on. Why? Because trust the government. Listen to Charlie Kirk. My beautiful freedom-loving friends, that's what some prominent conservative commentators are saying on each side of this. You've heard what I think. Let me know what you think. Are you more of a Charlie Kirk, let's just move on, trust our friends in the government? Or are you more of a Matt Walsh that says, no, I will never move on from this. It's too important. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to know where you stand on it. And I'll look forward to seeing you on our next video. But until then, stay free.